Guys, I want to thank the sponsors of the podcast. I want to thank GoHunt.com, my friend Cody Nelson, the glassing guru, the optics authority. He's the optics manager at GoHunt.com. If you have any interest in buying optics or have any glassing questions, whether it be tripods, spotting scopes, rifle scopes, range finders, anything to do with glassing, give Cody a call, 702-847-8747. That's extension 2, or you can email him at optics@gohunt.com. You can also send him a text or call him on his cell phone at 602-399-3699. Guys, right now at GoHunt.com Insider, you can take advantage of the free trial. Go to GoHunt.com/JScott. You're going to be able to take advantage of a free trial of the Insider. GoHunt is always adding more value for their Insider members. They've now added real 3D maps as a part of Insider for no additional cost. What an incredible value. Very soon they're going to have their mobile app up as well. Go to GoHunt.com/JScott and sign up for a free trial. If you're already an Insider member, it's automatically part of your Insider membership. And you can just go to the Maps tab up at the top once you sign in as an Insider. I also want to thank KUIU Ultralight Hunting. That's the gear that I wear on all of my hunts. To find out more, you can go to KUIU.com, KUIU.com. They're a direct-to-consumer company. They sell everything off of the KUIU.com website. I also do a lot of question and answer on my Instagram where I'm answering questions about guys wanting to know about gear about KUIU, so tune into my Instagram. I want to thank KUIU for their sponsorship. I also want to thank Phonescope.com. Use the JScott20 promo code. You're going to get a 10% discount on all orders. Again, thanks to all the sponsors of my podcast. Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today I've got my friends from The Draw on the line. I've got Jordan, Casey, and Jason. Guys, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I hear a new voice in there, Casey. You're running with the rough crowd with Jordan and Jason for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Guys, I want to get you on the podcast here. We're kicking off application season, which I'm sure you guys are well aware of that. You're probably right in the thick of it, but we've got an Arizona deadline staring us in the face, and then a bunch of other states are following suit after that. First, want to just touch base with you guys, see how everything's going over there at The Draw, and tell the people that maybe don't know what you guys do, how it's going and what you guys do, and then I want to dive into some questions here.
Sure, Jay, this is Jason. We're an application service based out of southern New Mexico, and we handle basically any state that has an application or a raffle. We handle the processing applications for those, for all of the states that have that. We've been in business about 4 years now, and we service about 2,000 clients now, and that's what we do. We're just an application service.
Yeah, I get a lot of feedback from people that have heard you guys on prior episodes, and they've joined up with your application service, and get a lot of feedback on my Instagram, especially people coming back after listening to the podcast with you guys and talking about how much time you guys spend with each person, and really that white glove kind of service. And I can appreciate you guys. I know Jordan and Jason and Casey. It'll be good to get to know you as well. Speaking about Arizona for a second, the whole Southwest. Let's talk about that. If you're in New Mexico, you know as well as I do the drought we're in. From a 30,000 foot view, what are your thoughts on all of these states for this 2021 fall season coming up, just in general?
For us, Jay, it doesn't look real good. We're in really bad shape here in southern New Mexico. I think it's the same in Arizona and really the whole state of New Mexico. Some of northern New Mexico is getting out of it, and they got good snowpack and stuff. But as far as the southern units in New Mexico and Arizona, it's really, really bad. And I don't see it getting better. We're really pulling back the reins and really thinking about some strategies that include, not going full blower in New Mexico or Arizona this year.
Yeah, but I mean, still with your you still have to apply in a bunch of these different states, and you got to still keep moving forward. With the drought, there's nothing any of us can do about the drought. What are you guys telling clients about, the strategy moving forward with the drought, as far as, still collecting points and still trying to apply for some of those units? And then there's a lot of guys out there that they don't even really care about, necessarily size of antler. They're just looking for hunts and opportunities. So I'm sure that brings up some conversation with you guys.
Yeah, for sure, Jay. I think that, that's a great way of putting it is, as we're looking at the South right now, or the Southwest, we're definitely setting in a bit of a holding pattern. If it's Arizona, we're very fortunate to have that point guard system in place where guys can still be a little bit aggressive, and who knows, maybe we have an incredibly wet, moisture spring that things start shaping up and looking a lot better than they do right now. New Mexico, it's definitely a bit of a no harm, no foul roll of the dice, right? Especially if we just kind of focus on historically more units that are a little bit have a better track record in them. But, these could be the years where we get a little bit more aggressive about looking at using some points maybe in Montana or Wyoming or Colorado. I mean, Wyoming and I think the whole, West had some pretty bad drought this year. But as a general rule, those states are a lot more likely to bounce back real quick. And then, I was going to kind of hand it off to Casey here because I know he's as dialed as anybody on maybe you've only been investing in one state or the other, and it's like, well, how do I make an opportunity happen sooner than later if my goal has been primarily a long-term goal state? So I'll kind of hand it over to him, but he definitely knows as well as anybody.
All right, so I'm just going to break a little bit of it down as far as long-term and short-term for guys that are just getting started. Kind of like myself, I've been in a couple states, but not too serious. Always been pretty hesitant for one reason or another. But what we've kind of got figured out is for short-term goals, just getting started, you want to focus on like Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, and then specifically for archers, Montana. If we go back to Wyoming, we're going to be more for the general tag, because currently you only need about 2 or 3 points to get to where you're actually playing there. And then Arizona, Utah, Nevada, those are going to be our long-term. You're pretty committed 15, 20 years to even look at any options there as far as good ones. So I got to sneeze like crazy.
I think one of the questions I would have for you guys is, you deal with all sorts of different people and different goals. And so every time the phone rings, you don't know if it's going to be one of your people that have been applying for 15 or 20 or 30 years, or if it's some of the people that are starting out. What are you seeing out there as trends? Obviously, your company has been just growing and growing and growing. What are the trends? What are people asking for out there? What are people wanting to hunt? And what are you hearing out there on the street?
Sure, it's a good question. I think at the end of the day, Jay, to your point, everybody's got a different goal, and as we've matured into a bit of a different company, we do have guys that are calling us that maybe because of work or family or whatever, they've just been investing in these places for 10, 15 years. And now it's like they're ready to start hunting. But on the flip side of that, maybe the guy hasn't been investing in it and he's the same age, and family and life has started kind of slowing down a little bit and he's ready to start hunting. And I think that that is probably the overall message, is that the day of let's get started in this state and apply religiously, and eventually someday it's going to be our turn to go and hunt the very best thing that ever happened in those states. That ship has kind of sailed, as mature as these point systems are, and that's where states like New Mexico have started to kind of shine a little bit, is with you're not behind a point system. You're not behind some long 20-year curve or 10-year curve even. You have the same chance as everybody. And as Casey pointed out, some of these states, the way that their application process works ends up lending itself to some short-term goals, even though it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be hunting what many would call the best units in the state. But like, so I'll break it down real quick in Wyoming, and then we can shift to like deer real quick and kind of do the same thing. But Wyoming, and Casey touched on general elk, 2 to 3 years, you're going to be 100% chance of drawing, whether you're in the regular or the special. And that's just, the special means you pay a little bit more money for the tag, but same dirt, same season dates, same everything, and 100% chance of drawing with 2 to 3 points. So with that tag, you have access now to hunt almost 50% of the state of Wyoming. And like a lot of us we don't get to play this game as often as it used to be, but for $74, if you draw that tag, you now have an archery stamp that would allow you to hunt the entire archery season. If you're unsuccessful there, you can come back during the rifle season. And Wyoming is definitely not a state that I lean on when guys are looking for that 380 plus kind of bull. It's just not about that up there. But if guys want to go elk hunting and have positive experiences for, 280 to 360 class bulls, even with that general tag, there is a lot of bulls clear up into those 340 to 360 class coming out of that state. Some public land, some private land. If you want to do a high alpine horseback or wall tent type experience, all the way down to a super gentle lodge-based experience, there is something for everybody outside of the guy that only wants to shoot 380 plus kind of bulls in Wyoming. And obviously there's still some of those every year, but it's just a lot fewer and far between. But with 2 to 3 points, that is a really great option. And the other thing about that is, with a change that happened in Wyoming last year, where they moved when the results are being posted, is Wyoming is now actually probably a really good backup plan, because prior to that, you would need to commit to a hunt in Wyoming clear into, the end of January. And if you're guys like us, that's a hard thing to do, because I want to see what happens in Arizona and New Mexico and Utah and maybe Montana. And I hated committing to that. So I just defaulted to a point only for elk because I like to play the game. And that didn't let me. Now they've moved that results all the way back into the 3rd week of May, and up until the 2nd week of May, we actually have a chance to retract that application, and we're out a few dollars for the application fee, but we can jump back in July, grab our point, and it's really a no harm, no foul situation. So as late as those results post, and the idea that we could retract the application and still get a point and move forward, make it the best backup plan in the country for elk hunters. And if you're setting on a bunch of points right now, you might as well have that in the mix. And if you're waiting on a unicorn tag in Utah, Nevada, or Arizona, at least get some value out of the fact that you've invested so much time and money in Wyoming. And now with that change from last year, you sure can do that.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like an interesting way to play the game. How does it all fall? You talk about elk, but I know a lot of people want to know about mule deer. What are your thoughts on mule deer across the West? It seems like the mule deer opportunities have been so highly sought after, and every year it seems like the demand for mule deer hunts goes up and up and up.
Yeah, definitely, Jay. I think that the mule deer, it's probably not quite as common as the elk request here, but it sure is a high one, and it's one that we're awfully passionate about here. Short-term goal states guys should be looking at are going to probably be similar to that: Montana, Wyoming, Colorado. I would probably put those 3 as kind of the top tier. A few that are outside of the box and a little bit out in left field, but still should be considered, as probably South Dakota. And if you really want to get crazy about it, Western Kansas. That one's definitely not for everybody, but it's worth mentioning. It's a short-term goal, and there's some big deer coming out of there. So, with I'll tell you, it's hard to find a 180 class deer anywhere. Doesn't matter where you're hunting or where, what tag you're on. 180 plus inch deer is a very tough deer to find, and it can come out of a whole lot of places. A 160 to 180 or a 150 to 170 class deer, on the other hand, is definitely a lot more available, and there's a lot of places. And what we found is if you're hunting a 150 to 170 class area often enough, eventually you're going to run into an anomaly. And so whether you're going with an outfitter who's kind of getting you past the learning curve, or you're hunting areas that have these low point totals. I mean, there's over 200 mule deer hunts in Colorado that take one or less point to draw. 99% of them are second and third season. But if you're hunting a unit that has a track record for producing 200-inch deer, even if it's not the best time of year to be there, if you hunt it enough, I really think that the odds are going to tip. Eventually you'll be there when the weather's right, conditions get good, and you'll have enough history in the area to capitalize on it when those stars line up like that. And I think that that's where we find the success in mule deer. It's hard to imagine that we could put it in a box, whether it's in Utah or Nevada or Arizona, for guys just getting started and say, okay, we've waited 20 years and we're going to put it in this 10-day window, and all of our dreams are going to come true because we waited 20 years. It's just not realistic anymore. So,
well, and I think the other thing, Jordan, that you have to think about, and I see it a lot in Arizona, is, I guided for Arizona and for elk in Arizona for 20 years, and now I'm just kind of doing bighorn sheep in Arizona because I'm over at the OT6 in Colorado for elk season. But it got to where our quality had slipped a little bit, and guys had, 18 to 24 points, and they, wait 24 years to draw a tag, and they finally draw it. And then what they don't realize is that, maybe the bulls that they had been, seeing and reading about for years, all of a sudden maybe weren't the same bulls that they were after, where they could have probably taken those points and drawn maybe twice in that same amount of time, and had two pretty good experiences rather than chasing, the upper echelon bull and maybe being disappointed with that experience and only getting to do it once every 20 years. So I know that's where businesses like yours, where you guys earn your money, is trying to help people understand where those opportunities are. I also think that, from everything that I've heard about the feedback from your service, tell me, like, if someone calls, how does a call get handled when it comes in? How do they become, part of your service, and what does that entail?
Jay, it starts with our initial consultation, and that's really where the consultants here get to learn about the client that's calling in. And just to feed off of what you're saying, we ask questions like, do you want to go hunting once for deer in the next 20 years and have this chance and it's a chance, like you said, Jay, it's a chance at a big deer? Or do you want to go hunting mule deer every other year for the next 20 years and go hunting 20 times in 20 years or 10 times in 20 years? And that first initial consultation is basically a learning process for us so we can have a clear understanding of what the client is looking for. Then we take a deep breath and we end the conversation there, and we go back and we put together our hunt plan for them. It's a very detailed document, and the consultant then provides the client back on a second call with that hunt plan, and that's where you really dive in and work out the details of a plan to start applying and doing stuff. So it's kind of a two-step process where we learn from them, and then we apply our expertise and knowledge and try and present them with a plan. And it may be a 1-year plan, and it may be a 10-year plan, depending on what they're looking for. But that's kind of how the process works.
And I'm sure it's a lot like guys that do financial planning as well. As people progress with their lives and things change within their lives, there's always those opportunities that change, and there's always, maybe their goals change a little bit. So I'm sure you have to kind of put some wiggle room in there for if the opportunity, or excuse me, if the goals change, that you can kind of pivot and say, okay, we've kind of been going with this strategy, but from what it sounds like, you've had some life changes and now you want to move with this strategy. With the way you have it set up, is your system, are you able to be fairly nimble and communicate with the clients and keep that communication line open where if things do change, you can service them?
100%, Jay. And our software program is extremely robust. We actually have parameters in our software program that can provide for weddings and births and the family vacations and all these things that pop up that may interfere with a season or a draw. And that's all part of the consultation. We look at every angle because we don't want to miss anything that then puts us like we're behind the curve, and you've got a client that's got a tag and he's like, wait, that's the same time as my daughter's graduating from college, I can't do that, or whatever it may be. So our software program actually tracks and has the ability to track those for our clients, and that is definitely part of our service.
What about all these statewide raffles and statewide auctions and some of these different organizations that might have opportunities? Do you also make your members aware of certain things like that when you look at it on the face value, you might actually have fairly decent odds at getting a tag?
Yeah, for sure, Jay. I mean, it's a big part of where I think draws overall in the next 10 to 15 years is going to be kind of going further and further down that path. And I feel like we have a really good program around it. I mean, the long story short is if there is one that exists, we take care of it for guys. I mean, I've been on the phone, quite a bit already this week, making sure guys are aware and are getting teed up for a number of these different raffles that normally aren't available to us sitting in our desks or in our houses, be it the Wild Sheep Foundation this year. You don't have to be present to win some of that stuff, as well as Full Curl Society and the Hunting Expo. I mean, those are a little bit outside the box normal, but year over year, if there's a raffle that exists, we want our guys to be aware of it, and we track all of that and present it to them. And if it lines up with their goals, then we make sure we don't miss any of those, because to your point, I mean, Rocky, right? As you're probably aware, Jay, I mean, nowadays it seems like if a guy's chasing sheep, there's a pretty good chance the last one that he'll still be chasing is his Rocky somewhere. And how unfortunate to miss a $10 raffle ticket or a $20 raffle ticket for a chance at that coming to fruition, because we either stroke a check that'll make our heart stop, or we get into every one of these with a ticket or two. And some guys are more aggressive than others, but at least get our name in the hat, because that's where the odds come from, is being in as many of them as we can, not necessarily, dumping the end of the rainbow out on one or the other of them.
Yeah, makes sense. Guys, with this Arizona deadline coming up, is Arizona, it used to be Wyoming, I think, was due the end of January, and it sounds like you said that date has changed. Does Arizona then become kind of the first one out of the gate? I mean, we obviously had Alaska already. Talk a little bit about the different states and kind of the chain of events that's going to happen over here over the next couple of months.
So the results posting in Wyoming have changed, but the application deadline, it's usually January 31st, but it lands on a weekend this year, so it's February 1st this year. But we've got that as kind of for most guys, that's going to be the kickoff to some extent. It's the Wyoming elk, but then shortly after, we've got February 9th is when the Arizona elk and antelope come. Then we've got Wyoming sheep, moose, and goat. Then we roll into Utah. Then we roll into Wyoming bison. I mean, it's definitely, we're right on the front end of the storm. We're only jumping one jump rope right now, but we're about to be doing double Dutch with a whole pile of deadlines coming down the pipeline. But yeah, Arizona. I mean, again, that's why I brought up that Wyoming and kind of an idea and a concept that we're looking at for guys who want to be more aggressive, because I, like most of us, I've defaulted to point only for a lot of years there, simply because I want to go to Wyoming. That's why I put in for those points. But I also hate to commit to that hunt until I knew whether or not I drew Arizona. And as a New Mexico resident, obviously I want to see what the results of those are prior to committing to too much stuff, because it's that's part of the fun of the game, and to just know that I was committed early in Wyoming. I don't know. I couldn't wrap my mind around it, but yeah, Arizona's coming quick, Jay. I mean, that, like Jason said earlier in the conversation, that's we're watching that one close. I mean, our biggest advice with that one definitely is going to be just be careful. If you have point guard, definitely get it this year. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, with the drought and not knowing exactly what our winter and spring moisture, I mean, it's not looking good right now. But like you said earlier, I mean, it could change at any time. It's not like it's going to turn the drought around. But I mean, if we get some timely storms at the right time here over the next couple of months, it can be salvaged. So people need to keep that in mind. But like Jordan says, if you definitely need to spend the $5. Don't be so tight that you're not going to spend the $5 and not get the point guard, because it's basically an insurance policy from all those years of applying, that if for whatever reason you draw a tag and conditions don't change, you still have the opportunity to, right up until the hunt starts, be able to give that tag back and still get a point, and not waste 18 or 20 or 22 points, or maybe it's even 6 or 7. So I think that's super important with Arizona coming up. And so guys, I want to ask you, what is the best way for people that I've had you on the podcast a bunch, and I know people really like to call and talk and communicate with you guys. How do you guys feel is the best way for people to, one, learn more about your service, but two, actually, dive in and dig into it?
Sure. Definitely call us is our favorite way, right, Jay? Like we definitely feel like we're in the relationship building business, and the best way to get that started is give us a call and just have a conversation with us about what your goals are and maybe how our program works. You can do that easily at 575-222-1234, and either myself or Jason or Casey, definitely, he's got a lot more time, it seems like, than either me or Jason right now, with, as established as things have gotten. But any one of us are going to be able to help you. We monitor our social media very closely, either The Draw on Facebook or We Are The Draw on Instagram. And there's also some ways to communicate with us via chat functions and back and forths like that right on our website at thedraw.com. So awesome. However guys are comfortable, and if you're at work and you can't be on the phone but you can text, then hit us up like that. And if you do have time to call, we sure like the conversations as much as anything.
Yeah, for sure. And moving into the new year of 2021, we're in January. Are there any hunts that you're conducting right now in January, or anything, out chasing deer anywhere, or anything going on right now for you guys personally?
Nothing personal. We've got a few clients in the field doing archery hunts, both mule deer and coos deer, here up until the 15th of January. And then, Jay, as you know, all of our governor auction type tags go to the 31st of January. So we still have, there's about a half a dozen of those hanging out there that we're still slightly involved with, trying to finish up throughout the end of January.
Good stuff. Well, guys, it's always great having you on the podcast and kind of getting an overview of those elk and mule deer opportunities out there. And I always appreciate talking to you. It's going to be a bummer not having the shows this year. I always like bumping into you guys and chatting it up a little bit.
It's embarrassing how bad that hurts, Jay. It shouldn't. I wish that it didn't hurt that bad, but gosh, I love it up there.
Yeah, I know it's a bummer, but hopefully we'll get back to doing it next season. So, guys, as always, it's great having you on, and Casey, it's good to get to hear from you, and look forward to meeting you more.
I was going to tell you one last thing too, Jay. If guys want to hear a little bit more of our thoughts on Arizona elk and antelope, we're just getting close to wrapping up the Arizona elk and antelope strategy article for Go Hunt. So once we get the final touches on that, and then Brady and those guys kind of spruce it up and do their magic on it. Should be live here hopefully in the next week and a half, and guys can kind of read a little bit more of a little deeper thoughts on Arizona elk and antelope.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just looking at the Go Hunt Insider right now. They just released the draw odds, and man, you look at some of these odds and you look at the point creep and some of the stuff. It is discouraging somewhat, but I'm speaking as a resident, but from a non-resident point of view. But you also have to remember that Arizona has the 5% of the tags can go to random draw. So I mean,
we had guys draw Unit 1 archery with 3 points, a pair of them.
Yeah.
Last year. I mean, that's even more amazing to us. But yeah, the anomalies happen, and you can't win if you don't play.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think Arizona, it's created an interesting dynamic where, it used to be you had to have 15 or 20 points to draw. And I've heard of several, people contact me every year and they're like, I didn't have any points, or I had 2, or I had, whatever. And so, yeah, it's an interesting draw system, how it works for sure. And guys, it's always great having you on the podcast. I wish you the best of success.
Thank you, Jay, very much.
All right. God bless.